Tell me, Dr. Eva, what is the most significant takeaway you want to give to people with regard to human consciousness and health?
Probably the most important thing is something that sort of mentioned at some point. I mentioned this a lot, and it's appreciating the complexity of the human system and appreciating that health is not just physical, that we've got the mental layer, emotional layer. We then are going into a subtle energy field, so the energy flow through the chakras is critical, and energy flow through the meridians is critical. Without it, there is no health. And then we've got those layers, we've got the higher consciousness, we've got our subconscious mind. We then have all sorts of epigenetic influences, so ancestral traumas, intergenerational traumas. So really, we need to be aware of all of those layers if we're going to create optimal health and healing. What you always, not always, but often, very often, more often than not, what you find that you're dealing with something at a physical level, and particularly with the technology I work with, that's how I know I can check all of these relationships. And you often see that really what's blocking the healing is perhaps it is ancestral trauma, something that is coming from parents or grandparents, or even further back in terms of generations. And so we're working to get rid of this pathogen, and we spending money on these supplements, and we going on this restrictive dietary regimes, and we're making so much sacrifice. But if we completely ignore those elements, we may never be able to get rid of the problem, because even if we temporarily get rid of the problem, it will continue coming back, because there is some imprint in the information field. There is something disharmonious there, and we need to clear that and harmonize that in order then to be able to successfully deal with something at the physical level. I think that's, when it comes to health and consciousness, this is probably one of the most important things that I'm trying to relate to people these days, because it's very much, it's not on people's radar, at least not on most people's radar, and it's very, very, very important, because what I'm seeing is that when we clear at those kind of, we can say, outer layers of the field, when we clear those blockages of those disharmonious frequencies that may be there, those influences, because, you know, really, the information imprint from other generation is still there, unless we go and clear that specifically. And when we do that, it's absolutely unbelievable what suddenly can shift for people when they've been trying for years and years to shift something, and they kept being blocked. So that's a very important element just to keep in mind. If you're stuck in something, you need to look further into the outer layers, let's call them, of the information field.